Hello again and welcome to another video. It's been a really long time. Sorry about that. What I have for you today is a wonderful, probably going to be quite long vlog of our trip to Ireland that we just went on. We literally got back a week ago today. I'm getting over a cold in typical Nikki fashion. Ended up coming down with a stonking, disgusting cold on like the fourth day of the holiday. It was like halfway through the holiday I woke up feeling absolutely terrible. So I dosed myself up. I managed to enjoy the holiday as much as I possibly could. It was beautiful and crucially, despite the last two holidays where I promised myself I would draw and I took all of my art supplies and a sketchbook and everything with all of the intention of drawing every day and I never did, this holiday I actually drew almost every day. Almost every day. And I filled up like 8 spreads in my sketchbook. I'm going to show you it very briefly. Full disclosure, in my research before holiday of looking into plein air drawing, travel drawing tips, I came across Sophie McPike's YouTube channel, who I followed her for ages, but like never really like properly watched any of her videos. Like I would occasionally watch one that came up, actually usually would be her like travel sketchbook videos, but I'd never really like watched one properly. You know when you put a YouTube video and you do something else, you're not really watching it. And she did an art retreat in Ireland a couple of months ago, I think it was back in July, and I found her video and I was so inspired by her and the way that she fills sketchbook pages, the way that she draws on plein air, the way she draws on location, all that. So full disclosure, this is down to the fact that this is a Stillman and Birn sketchbook, is hugely influenced by Sophie McPike. Like I was never going to fill an entire sketchbook. I mean, I kind of had that as a goal in my mind, but I was never going to fill an entire sketchbook. But for me, I think filling 8 spreads is pretty bloody good. It's, for reference, it is this much of the sketchbook. I'm extremely proud of myself because, like I say, every time I go on holiday or anytime I go anywhere and I have the intention to draw, I just don't, because I tell myself that I'm too tired, or I'm a bit embarrassed to do it in front of people. I'm afraid that people will ask me stuff. I'm like, to be fair, people did approach me while I was drawing in pubs and ask me about it and want to like look and talk to me. And for someone who doesn't like speaking to people that I don't know, I barely like speaking to people that I do know, I just dealt with it. People are extremely nice. People don't want to be rude about what you're doing, so it was fine. So this is the vlog of the trip. I took, I think it was like something like 600 files of footage that I have not yet put together. I'm filming this intro before I've even put all of the footage together, so I don't know what you're about to see, but I'm sure it'll be nice. And I'll also be sprinkling in pages from this so you can see what I drew. So it's a travel vlog, mini sketchbook tour, show and tell. This is what I did. And yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Like I say, I haven't actually put the footage together yet, so I don't know what you're about to see, but I'm sure it'll be great. And I hope you enjoy. So without further ado, here's the vlog. Okay, so this is voiceover Nikki here. I'm just going to give you a little bit of context for what you're watching. So this is day 1, which was our travel day. We flew from Stansted Airport in London to Dublin Airport. So this is actually the first time I'd flown in well over 10 years, and I'm also absolutely terrified of flying, so it was a pretty stressful day, which is why there's not a lot of footage of the actual airport. So we landed in Dublin. We got a coach from Dublin Airport to our hotel, which was in the Portobello area of Dublin, right on like a little canal. It was lovely. It was a really nice hotel that we were in, and we were so tired from the flight, and we got up quite early to get to Stansted, and I'd not really slept much the night before. I'd also just come off of a really busy 2 weeks of work, so I was knackered. So we just rested, chilled out for an hour or two. I finished a sketchbook spread that I started in the airport, which was a bit of an opening spread for our island trip, and also something for me to take my mind off the flight. And then once we'd rested and chilled out for a little bit, we headed sort of near Temple Bar area to eat at a little vegan restaurant called Saucy Cow, which was such a cool little place. Colin had a fake chicken burger called the Space Cowboy Burger, and I had the Buckfast Barbecue Burger, which is like a beef style burger with like barbecue sauce and cheese. Oh my god, it was so good. We also shared their salt and pepper tofu and their waffle fries, and then for dessert Colin had it was like a cherry chocolate cake, which I didn't go for, but he said it was delicious. So after we had a bit of food, we went searching for a pub or a bar that we could have a little pint in, and because it was Friday night, it was absolutely packed in the centre. So on the way back to the hotel, so sort of near a Portobello area, we found this little vintage style, maybe like Prohibition style bar called Tucker Riley's, which was lovely. It had loads of really cool vintage like products and bottles to look at, and I did a little bit more drawing in my sketchbook, had a pint of Guinness obviously, and that was it. And then we headed back to the hotel and tried to get an early-ish night because we were both super tired and we wanted to make the most of the Saturday, so we went to bed. Day 2 was our first full day in Dublin. We started off the day with a really nice breakfast at this little cafe called Coffee and Kale. They did a fully vegan breakfast bap. So good, so filling. My mouth is watering just thinking about it. And we also had some freshly squeezed orange juice. That was such a good start to the day. And then we set off into Dublin city centre to try and find a city sightseeing bus. My boyfriend Colin and I are absolutely obsessed with these buses. We got on one when we went to Edinburgh a few years ago, and now every time we're in a city that has a city sightseeing bus, we will find it and get on it, because they're often such a good way of getting around a city whilst also like finding out a little bit about the place that you're in. I must say the one in Dublin isn't my favourite. I think the traffic in Dublin is absolutely chronic, which does mean that it takes absolutely forever to get anywhere. So it's not really a good way of getting around. And also we didn't find the audio guide to be the best quality. Although I think we've been spoiled in the past because a lot of the city sightseeing buses we've got on have had a live guide and this one didn't. But it did help us to get the lay of the land, and we saw some cool things, and it helped us to decide what we wanted to see in Dublin. So I'm glad we did it, but maybe wouldn't recommend the city sightseeing bus tour in Dublin. So we rode the bus to one of the National Museum of Ireland sites. I think there's 4 in Dublin. This one is near the Stony Blatter area. It's housed inside the old Collins Barracks, so it's an old military barracks, and it's the Museum of Decorative Arts and the Museum of Military History. It's absolutely huge. It's got so many rooms with so much stuff, ranging from old tapestries, old dresses, to like shiny gold ornately decorated goblets, and like trophy looking things to statues, and honestly the biggest collection of coins I've ever seen in my life. They had a few larger reproductions of the coins sort of on like in front of the cabinets that I took some rubbings of in my sketchbook, and I was so scared that the staff were going to come and tell me off, but I'm pretty sure that's what they're there for. I'm pretty sure they were there for like school kids coming and like doing rubbings. So yeah, I did a couple of those, which was quite fun to do actually, because I didn't really fancy sitting and drawing anything, but it was a good way of like getting something in my sketchbook that was a reminder of the time. So that was cool. We then found a little Japanese restaurant in the area called Sasaki Sushi. It's so cute, decorated in like traditional Japanese things. It was lovely, and we both had their teriyaki tofu, which was so delicious. Oh my god, this looks so nice. And then after lunch we did actually go back to the museum to look at the military history side, but I haven't included any of the footage from that because it's not really my thing, and I didn't take a lot of footage. But that's something that Colin likes, so it was for Colin. And then we hopped back onto the city sightseeing bus to get back to the centre of Dublin, which we did mostly because we'd already paid for the ticket for the bus. Honestly, I think we probably could have walked back faster than the bus took us. But it did sort of take us around in a direction that we wouldn't have normally gone, which meant we got to see quite a lot of the cool Georgian architecture on the one side of Dublin and some of the statues, which I've never been to New York, but these buildings give me such a New York vibe. I don't know if I'm talking rubbish because I've never been. I don't know. They look New Yorky to me. And then after we got off the bus, we had a little stroll through St. Stephen's Green, which is a lovely little park right in the middle of the Portobello area. I think it's the Portobello area. Anyway, we had a little stroll through there. I took loads of pictures to draw from later. And there were so many birds, like swans, ducks, seagulls, little baby seagulls. It was very cool. After spending the day in buildings, I was very happy to see some green, I must admit. So we headed back to the hotel, had a quick rest, and then headed back out again to a place called the Workman's, which houses a comedy club called the Crack Den, which we booked tickets to, and we drank more beer. I obviously drank more Guinness, and we had such a laugh. It was such a good night out, and it's something that I really wanted to do in Dublin, so I was really happy that we managed to get to a comedy night. It was really cool. So we started day 3 with breakfast at Coffee and Kale yet again. This really became our breakfast spot for the whole of our time in Dublin because it was so good. This time we tried the vegan breakfast, which is like a full English breakfast, but vegan. It had toast, vegan sausages, potatoes, beans, vegan black pudding. I don't know what they put in that vegan black pudding, but it was so good. And there was also tomatoes and mushrooms and spinach. I gave the mushrooms to Colin because I don't really like them. But otherwise it was so good and so filling, and I also had some time to do a little bit of drawing because we were just taking it easy. So yeah, it was a really nice start to the day. And then we had a little walk over to the National Gallery of Ireland because, you know, you gotta love some art. This is another stunning Georgian building which was totally free to enter. We found out that anything in Ireland that has national in front of it is free to enter, which is such a good thing to have. There's a massive collection of paintings inside this gallery, all from different time periods, all different styles. It really was just an absolute feast for the eyes and a really fun way to spend a few hours. I was especially drawn to this painting, which is by an Irish artist named William John Leach. I love the colour and the lighting, it's so beautiful, and I was really taken by the way the paint is applied, especially around the flowers. It's just so juicy, I love it. There was another artist at the National Gallery of Ireland that I discovered and was pretty interested in. Her name's Mildred Ann Butler. She mostly painted birds in watercolour and did a lot of painting on plein air. The way she paints animals and birds is just so lush and so nice, and the way she gets like the little tree branches are all gnarly, it's very cool. So we spent a good few hours there before we ended up heading off to get some lunch. We ended up wandering through a cute little market and it had loads of random stalls, like this really cute like kawaii Japanese stall, which a lot of the stalls were closed because it was Sunday, so there would have been even more if we'd come on a different day, but yeah, it was very cool. And then we stopped at a little place called Umi Falafel to get something to eat. There's quite a few branches of this Umi Falafel place in Dublin. This time I had the vegan shawarma, which was so good. It was a bit messy though because both sides of the wrap were open, so it ended up just falling all out the bottom. And Colin had the halloumi wrap, which he said was really good, but it was a bit spicy. So now we'd lined our stomachs enough that we could set off for the Jameson distillery where we were booked on the tour. And I have to say, this is one of my favourite experiences that we had in Dublin, even as someone who's not a whiskey person. And I've tried so hard to become a whiskey person, I just don't like it. But yeah, this tour was amazing. You could choose just a little glass of neat Jameson whiskey or a cocktail to take with you. The cocktails were Jameson lemonade and Jameson ginger and lime. I had the lemonade, Colin had the ginger and lime. The whiskey and lemonade was so nice, honestly. I could drink that easy, so nice. So then we headed on the tour with our drinks, and the tour itself was so interesting. They really managed to present all of the history of the Jameson brand in such a way that was so engaging and really brought it to life. And there was, of course, a tasting session within the tour where we had 3 little different Jameson samples to try, and I actually really enjoyed them. I don't know if it's because I'd already got a whiskey cocktail in me, but I really enjoyed them. And then obviously, because we hadn't had enough to drink, we stopped by a little pub called the Long Hall that Colin had actually seen a couple of times as we'd passed and really wanted to go in, but every time we'd gone past it was just absolutely packed, so we just not bothered. So because today was a Sunday, it was quite quiet, so we managed to find a little booth to snuggle up in, and we enjoyed a quiet drink, another Guinness of course, while I did a little bit of painting. And then for dinner we decided that we fancied another visit to the Saucy Cow. And I was glad that we did, because we were absolutely blessed by the presence of these 2 cute little doggies. So I was very happy about that. As for the food, there was a little bit of a mishap with our fries being forgotten about, but the burgers were so good. Day 4 was the day I was so looking forward to, the day of the Guinness tour. I must admit, when I woke up this morning, I felt so groggy, and I was like, no, I'm doing the Guinness tour today. I'm just a bit tired. I'm going to power through. And now I look back and I'm like, yeah, that was the beginning of me getting ill. But it's fine. We powered on. So unlike the Jameson tour, which was in little groups and you sort of get taken and guided through each section, the Guinness tour is completely self-guided. So you have a slot that you turn up, but I don't know how like strict they actually are about people turning up at their slot. And you can just walk through at your own leisure and look at things, which is good because it means you get tons of time to look at things, and there's so much to look at. But it did mean that there were certain points of the tour that were pretty crowded, there were like little bottleneck areas where there was like more information, people were like spending more time there. So if you don't like crowds, it's not like, some parts of it aren't fun. And we went like on a Monday morning, so I thought it was going to be absolutely dead, but it was full. Like, they must have been fully booked. But in spite of that, I would say that it's definitely worth doing. It's almost like an art exhibition. Like, everything is presented in such an immersive way. Like, so many of the sections are just visually so beautiful, and it manages to cram a lot of information in. It takes you through the manufacturing process from beginning to end in so much detail, and yeah, it's just super immersive, super cool to look at. Everything's displayed in like an interesting way. Yeah, absolutely loved it. So we opted for the tour and the what they call the Stouty experience, which is where basically they take a photo of you and then they print it onto the top of your pint using a state-of-the-art printer. They actually print it using malt extract, I think, which doesn't like taste like anything. And they managed to get so much detail into this photo. It's incredible. It was so cool watching them do it. The image even stayed until like basically the end of the drink, because Guinness foam is so thick that it just like keeps. It was so cool. I would definitely recommend it. It is a little bit chunk more money to do it, but I would definitely recommend it. So we drank that free pint pretty quickly and then headed up to the Gravity Bar to get our second free pint. The Gravity Bar is very cool. It's got panoramic views of the Dublin skyline. I very much stayed in the middle because I'm a bit afraid of heights, so I didn't go very close to the window, but it was so cool, and it was all decked out like summertime. I tried to do the Guinness game. So there's this Guinness game where basically your first drink of your pint, you try and get it to like the middle of the Guinness logo on the glass. And I nearly did it. I was well proud of myself. And then I obviously had to grab a t-shirt from the gift shop. Had to be done. Ended up with this gorgeous limited edition design by a Dublin artist called Cathy Burke, which I absolutely love. So after we'd downed 2 pints without any food, we then had a bit of a mad rush to the nearest Umi falafel to scoff something to try and soak up a bit of the alcohol. And then we walked over to the Little Museum of Dublin. Basically, the museum is all in one room. There's absolutely loads of things to look at. There's like memorabilia, there's like old documents, old paintings, old photos. It's so cool. And then you get like a 45-minute whistle-stop history of Ireland by this young lad. He was so funny. He was telling so many jokes and puns. And yeah, he managed to cram in the entire history of Ireland in like 45 minutes and make it really entertaining and fun. So I would definitely recommend, if you visit in Dublin, it's a very cool little experience. Day 5 was the day I woke up with a full-blown cold, and after a bit of breakfast I had to head to the nearest pharmacy for some cold and flu tablets because I was not going to let a cold ruin this holiday. Once I'd taken some medicine, we checked out of our hotel, picked up our hire car, and then began the road trip to Waterford, where we would be staying next. To break the trip up a little bit, we decided to stop at Kilkenny to visit the castle there. I think it was like an hour and a half to Kilkenny, and then like maybe an hour onto this place we were staying that was called the Comeragh afterwards. Kilkenny is such a nice town. I kind of wish that we could have stayed there for longer, but we were only there for a couple of hours just as a bit of a pit stop on the way. Their castle is absolutely stunning. We ended up getting the guided tour, which meant that we could see the medieval dungeons below the castle, and we could sort of go behind the rope line in the actual main castle itself to see the preserved sitting rooms and look at all of the old furniture and see like the tapestries and stuff. It was really cool. I was really gutted because they said I wasn't allowed to film when we were on the actual tour itself, so I don't have any footage of it, but it was very cool. And then we had a little wander through the castle's rose garden, which was really peaceful, even though the weather was definitely starting to turn at this point. We'd had pretty good weather up to this point, and it was definitely starting to turn. It was getting a bit cloudy, and we were like, oh dear. It was a bit foreboding. Just across the street from the castle was another stately home that had a really nice garden as well, and there was this quite big lily pond like in the middle of it that I was absolutely obsessed with. Although I was mildly afraid of frogs. So we then left Kilkenny and travelled the rest of the way to Comeragh. I believe I'm saying that correctly. It's County Waterford area, and we were staying at a place called the Comeragh Pods, and we, on the way, just stopped in actual Waterford town centre for some noodles at this really nice place called Ramen, and it was really good. And then we were so tired that we ended up just sort of passing out as soon as we got to the pods. The weather had definitely turned on day 6, and we woke up to an absolute downpour. This meant that we decided to spend the morning chilling out at the pod while it was raining, and I'm so glad we did because I felt really rough and I definitely needed a rest. Situated in the countryside, the Comeragh Pods are surrounded by mountains and grazing animals, which was a gorgeous location even in the pouring rain. Each of the little pods that you see has a bed, a sofa, a TV, table and chairs, a little sink area with tea and coffee facilities, plus an ensuite bathroom with a shower, which is really good. And then on top of that, there's a communal lodge building right in the middle of the site with a full kitchen, which was so useful for us because it was a little bit difficult to find vegan food in rural Ireland. So being able to just cook our own food and make like packed lunches to take with us when we went out places was so useful. There's also a jacuzzi and a sauna on site, which was very cool. So I spent the morning doing a bit of drawing and painting in front of the fire. It was so cozy, and there was only one other party there at the time, so it was very quiet, and it was so nice to just have a little bit of time to myself. Colin had gone back to bed, so it was just me and the fire and the cows and my paints, and it was just really nice to create something, and I'm really happy with the little painting that I did. It turned out really cute. So yeah, I had such a nice morning, and then we had a little bit of lunch. It was still raining, but we decided to drive into Waterford, which is a little kind of Viking town. It was settled by the Vikings way back when, so it's a really nice little town, loads of museums. We ended up seeking shelter in the Irish Silver Museum, which was really interesting. I've never seen so many shiny things in one place. It was actually really hard to take photos and footage because everything was so shiny. It was also really interesting to learn about the history of silver in Ireland, and they have a resident silversmith there, and they have a workshop there which you can't go into but you can see, and that was very cool. That was very interesting to see. So because Waterford's like a Viking town, there's a lot of references to Vikings as you're wandering around, which is really cool. There's even like a longboat like right on the harbour side. It's like a waterside town, obviously, Waterford. Waterford also has loads of amazing wall murals randomly, but they're so good. So we decided to just have a little wander around and see how many we could see, and even in the rain, it was really nice. Eventually though, we did need to find shelter again, so we ducked into a little pub where I enjoyed yet more Guinness. This time it was just a half pint because I was driving. This pub had so many random music related things on the wall. I think they did live music there, but I mean, the whole time we were in Ireland, we didn't see any live music. We then went back to the pods just before dinner time for a bit of rest and relaxation because we were still both really tired and I was still feeling really rubbish. The other guests had checked out, so we had the pods to ourselves for, I think it was 2 nights in total that we were the only people staying there. It was absolute bliss. So we decided to make use of the jacuzzi and sauna, which was actually really helpful and made me feel so much better and so much more relaxed. I loved it. So then after we'd had a little dip in the jacuzzi, I did a bit of drawing while Colin made a chickpea curry. We ate that and then we just chilled out by the fire and listened to a history podcast before going to bed. So this day kind of, at the time it felt like a bit of a write-off, but I think it was definitely needed. By day 7, the rain had mostly stopped, so we had a little venture over to Blarney to see the castle. It took about 2 hours to get there, and there were such nice views along the way. Autumn had definitely arrived in Ireland, and the trees were changing colour, which made the scenery all the more pretty. I have to admit that when I was purchasing the tickets for Blarney Castle, I did think that the price was pretty steep. As it transpires, Blarney Castle actually has miles and miles of gardens that all have stuff to see and do, so it was actually well worth it in the end. We also ended up seeing loads of cool animals, like this heron, which was so cool. I was filming it for a while and then it flew away, and oh my god, its wings are so big, and I was like, what? And like, I've seen herons before, but I don't think I've ever seen one that close up, so it was amazing. So the grounds are split up into different areas, and the first one that we explored was called Rock Close, which houses a myriad of different plants and trees. There were also a few sculptures of animals that were dotted around that were quite fun to discover, and honestly this section was like a magical woodland. There was so much green and just something really nice to see around every corner. I could have wandered around this bit all day and not even seen the castle and been quite happy. There were loads of like references to fairies and magic, and I didn't end up doing the wishing steps, but I actually really wish I'd done them. They looked really cool, but you had to walk up and down the steps with your eyes closed, so I definitely think I would have fell. There were so many cool plants, so many nice flowers, nice trees. There was even a little tire swing that I had a little play on. Oh my god, it proper twists around. Yeah, it was just a really fun time. We finally had a little look at the castle after spending way too long in the gardens, and there was a huge queue to kiss the Blarney stone. So if you don't know, there is a stone on the side of the castle at Blarney, and apparently if you kiss it, it will give you the gift of the gab, which is not a skill I particularly need to have. It's not something I desire. So we got in the queue because we thought, you know, there'd be stuff to see in the castle on the way up to the Blarney stone. I had no intention of kissing the stone. I find it such a weird thing to do. Especially post-COVID, I find that very strange that you're going to go and put your mouth on something that other people are also putting their mouth on. I find that very odd. And you'll see later on in the footage in this bit, I took a video of someone doing it. You have to lean out of the castle backwards and like upside down in order to do it, and I'm not about that life. So I got about halfway up the tower, and then there was a point that I could leave and come back down, so I did that, and then I just found a little bench to sit on and did a bit of drawing while I waited for Colin, because he went all the way to the top. He didn't kiss the stone either, but he went all the way to the top. So after the castle, we explored the rest of the grounds. Honestly, we didn't even see everything, and we spent the whole day here. There's so much to see in the grounds. There's so many cool little hidden areas, like little structures. It's so nice. So many nice flowers. One of my favourite parts was we went to the lake, which it's not a big lake. I think we walked around it in about 20 minutes, and there was a little bird hide that we sat in, and we watched this little family of swans swimming around. It was so cute, and we even saw a kingfisher. Like, it was like literally it zipped past us. It was like blink and you'll miss it. And then on the way back to the castle and to the exit, we passed this cute little group of horses that were having a little munch. We decided to stop at Cork for some dinner on the way back because it's not too far from Blarney, and I'd seen on Google Maps that there's a Saucy Cow branch there. So we ended up pulling up into this random car park right on the marina. It literally looked like somewhere that someone gets taken to get murdered in a gangster film. And we walked in, and there was this really lively, bustling, cool, energetic market. It was so cool. We were like, wow. I must say, driving through Cork, it did look like a really cool city, and we literally only went there for this one evening to get some food, so I definitely, if I ever went to Ireland again, I definitely want to explore it more. Day 8 was like the day of the sheep, I swear. we encountered sheep from the minute we left the pods in our hire car that morning. We'd decided to explore a little place called Marne Falls, I think I'm saying that right, in the Comeragh mountains, which wasn't too far from our pods really. I must admit I was feeling pretty shockingly terrible when I woke up this morning. I think I was at that point in my cold where the medication just wasn't touching it anymore. Like earlier on I could take a couple of cold and flu in the morning and a couple of hours later I'd feel basically normal, but this day they weren't cutting the mustard. Plus the wind was howling. Like, I feel like you can't tell from the footage, but it was so windy, it felt like it was going to blow us away. But you know, I got up and I powered through it, and we got to Marne Falls, and it was just so beautiful. The natural beauty of this place, and the mountains and the waterfalls. It was just really nice to spend a bit of time wandering, taking photos. We climbed the rocks a little bit. I sat on the rocks for a little bit and just watched the water. There was so many sheep at Marne Falls. All these really cute multicoloured sheep. I think they spray paint them to show like who they belong to, but they were just all over the mountains. And if you looked like at the top of the mountain on these really steep slopes, there would just be these little sheep just munching the grass, like without a care in the world. And the wind, firstly, I don't know how they got up onto these steep slopes. Secondly, I don't know how they stayed there with the violent wind. Yeah, the sheep are made of stronger stuff than I am in Ireland. But yeah, it was lovely. It was nice to see some nature and just like the wildness of the landscape. Just gorgeous. Just so nice. I really, really enjoyed it. We nipped back to the pods for a little bit of lunch and then decided to go to Dungarvan for a couple of hours, which was a coastal town not too far away from where we were staying. It's quite funny watching this footage because I was miserable whilst, keeping it real, I was miserable whilst we were filming this. I felt terrible, I was tired, I was so cold. When the cold just gets into your bones and you just feel like you'll never warm up again. So I wasn't very happy, but then we had a little sit down in a pub. I had a little half pint. Colin put his arms around me until I warmed up, and then we headed back out and went for another little stroll along the harbour, which was really cool. So all these little boats that you could see like just going out into the sea. And yeah, Dungarvan is a really nice town actually. I really enjoyed just seeing all of the things. There is a castle that we tried to look around, but it looked like it was closed for a wedding, so we didn't go around that. We kind of saw it from the outside. Ended up having quite a nice time despite the fact that I was in a very dark mood when we got there. We then went back to the pods once again, and unfortunately it was time for our last evening in Ireland, and I think that was partially why I was feeling quite miserable as well, because, you know, it's not fun when you get to the last day of your holiday. It's not fun at all, because you're like, I gotta go back to reality at some point and I don't want to. And I think there was a part of me that felt a little bit cheated that we were on holiday and I was feeling so terrible. We had been warned prior by the hosts at the pods that because it was Friday night, the entire site was fully booked, so we didn't have the place to ourselves anymore. So we decided to just hide out in the pod, and we ate some pizza. I did a little bit of painting. Colin listened to his history podcast, and then we snuggled under the blanket and went to sleep, ready for our journey home the next day. So that was it. It was our last morning. It was time to say bye to the pods. Time to pack up all of our stuff, chuck it in the hire car, and drive back to Dublin to get our plane home. We had a really weirdly timed flight. Like, our flight was at like 5 p.m, I think, but we had like a 2.5 hour drive back or something, and we had to drop the hire car off at like a specific time, so we ended up just getting to the airport like way before our flight. Like, the check-in for the bags wasn't even open yet. So yeah, we didn't really do much this day apart from drive, and I felt sad and sick and scared, and I also had a massive mouth ulcer on this day that you can see in the footage of me, that my face is like really big on one side because I had this awful mouth ulcer and it was so painful. But yeah, that was it, and then it was time to go home. I didn't cry on the plane back, by the way, so I'm quite proud of myself for that. How was it? Did you like it? I hope you did. So yeah, so that was it, and that was our trip, and we had a fantastic time, and I already miss it and I want to go back. And crucially, I just want to do more drawings. So what I have been doing, which I'll show you a little sneak peek of, look, if you watch this far, you've got a little reward, good on you, is I've been doing these little tiny thumbnails based on photos that I took. So they're not like, I'm really not trying to get any detail in, I'm just trying to get like the general shapes and stuff. And I've just been literally doing these on my lunch break at work. Like, I've been sat in my car with my little water brush and my little gouache palette, and I've just been painting these, and each one took like, these little ones took like 20-25 minutes, and I think that one took like 25-30 minutes. I only get 30 minutes on my lunch break, so I can't spend a lot more time on it than that. Painting in my car has been quite fun to try and figure out the logistics of. So yeah, so I've been doing these little thumbnails and they've been really fun, and I just want to do more and more painting like this because it's super loose, super like low stress, super low stakes and relaxing, which is what painting should be, let's face it. And I also did this portrait of Colin, but this is just because I love him so much and he's so cute. So yeah, so that's what I've been doing. So I filled up all of these pages on holiday, and then I've been doing more, and I think my goal is to just get to the next signature. So I just have like 3 spreads to do, and then I've got to the middle, to the next signature, and then I'll be like this much of the way through the sketchbook, which is quite a nice amount for a holiday, because I don't want to ride this to the point where I get bored. I want to stop while I'm ahead. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope you're having a great time. Please like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already, all that good stuff. Check me out on Instagram. I'll leave a link below to my Instagram. And yeah, stay tuned for more things hopefully. But I'll see you in the next one. Bye!